must have carbon monoxide detectors built in. So since 1993, and I think originally from 1977, there was requirements for smoke detectors. From 93, there was requirements for smoke detectors in all floors. And from 2006, there was requirements for smoke detectors on all floors and in every bedroom. We'll talk about why it requires smoke detectors a little bit later on. Now, yes, sir.
Got a question that says installed outside each bedroom. How many feet from that?
Within 12 feet.
12 feet.
Mm-hmm. So if you have bedroom doors close together, you can put it close together. But this is new construction, so unless you're a builder, and I have a member of the Home Builder Association, my company does work with new homes, this doesn't really apply to if you're going to rehab or if you're going to, if you're a landlord. Yeah. And that's what a carbon monoxide detector looks like. Now there's a couple different versions, and I want you to just think about this for a second. This one attaches to the wall. Unlike smoke detectors, not all carbon monoxide detectors go on the ceiling. Again, remember I said carbon monoxide is same specific gravity as air. So it's okay to put it in the ceiling. It's also okay to put 4 foot at code height on the wall. There's also ones that plug in. You can buy plug-in ones. All of these are within code, and I'll show you a little bit about that. Now, the state of Ohio has gotten very, very specific about what a carbon monoxide detector is. And we're going to get a few pieces out of this that we can use for what we're doing. Under A there, produces a distinct audible alarm. Okay, so it has to produce a distinct audible alarm, actually distinct from smoke detectors. We'll talk about the reason why that is in a few seconds. It can be either a battery powered, a plug-in with battery backup, or hardwired. Now, I'm going to stop there for a second. I'm going to talk to landlords. At some point in time here, I'm going to ask you what the state's going to require you to put in a carbon monoxide detector. If you put in a plug-in one, which I'm going to recommend you don't do, you're going to get a call when power's out or if the battery's low on this thing, your tenant going, there's something beeping in the house. They're going to drive you nuts. So don't use a plug-in one as a landlord. But you can use a battery-powered one or a hardwired one. The hardwired one put in by an electrician. Make sure the electrician has a state fire license. Most of them do. Battery-powered is also fine. It may be, and C is the one that's going to save us, it may be combined with a smoke detector, provided they have different sounding horns. So as the smoke detector goes off, gives you the ooh, 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 like that. A carbon monoxide detector has to give you a loud blast. So it has to be 2 different distinct sounds. So we can use that, by the way, this is the first 3 paragraphs of 18 paragraphs defining what a carbon monoxide detector is. We don't need to look at the rest of those, but these are the ones that have some pertinent points that we can use further on in the discussion. Okay, our landlords required to provide carbon monoxide detectors. 27 states, over half, do require that. Ohio does not, but wait, House Bill 476 is pending legislation, and I didn't bring the case kit with me, but there is a lady, I believe, she's an attorney, and it's Natalie, and it's Porter, I believe. She's in Columbus, and she is promoting this. She's one of the attorneys who was busy providing information to prosecute that Ohio landlord. So she's on the prosecution side. So she is promoting this. She's promoted this in 3 other states and got the bill passed there. Now, folks, at some point in time it's going to happen. It may not happen for 3 years or 5 years or next year or something like that, because it took almost 6 years for the requirement that I showed you up there, January 1st, 2013. It took about 6 years for that to actually make it through the state, through the House, and become law. It actually, yes, sir.
For rentals that have no gas going into the unit, you still have to have a CO detector?
I'll address that in a second, but you got a very good point. And if you remember the gentleman who was in jail for homicide, that was a gas generator he provided to them. So you think about the sources of CO. We'll get to that in a second. So what I'm going to recommend is you may want to include a discussion as you deal with your tenants, either if the initial move-in time, or whenever you visit them again, you may want to include a discussion about carbon monoxide. Home Depot, by the way, sells combined smoke and CO detectors. We'll plug for Home Depot every time.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Plug for Home Depot.
Thank you.
You can buy them other places too. Whoop. Let's do that here. Come on. Okay. Go on one more here. Okay, we're going to talk about your tenants. Okay, number one, never use a gas oven to heat your home. How many tenants have, they didn't pay their DP&L, they didn't pay their Cincinnati valve, they didn't pay their Cincinnati power light, and you find them with chairs in the kitchen, they're heating their house with the gas stove. Don't do that. That's the way to be asphyxiated with carbon monoxide. Never use a gas or charcoal grill in your house. We tend to be seen done that on the front porch. Well, sometimes the front porch is okay, but how about when they bring it into the covered back porch? How many houses do we have that have basically they've taken the back porch, they turned it into a room, and the tenant says, hey, I can grill here. It used to be a porch. It's not a porch anymore, it's part of your house. Remember when I said about 30 parts per million? It doesn't take a lot. And the problem is you fall asleep and then you die. So it's not something that you are aware of. You don't feel, you feel warm and comfortable. It's kind of a frog in the water. Don't sleep in your room with a non-vented gas or kerosene space heater. My father-in-law put a kerosene space heater on his enclosed porch. Unbelievable, you know? And so I had to yell at him about that. And there it's, oh, it's keeping the porch warm. Yeah, it's going to kill us all too. So, you know, make sure your tenant hasn't paid the power, doesn't pay the gas, and now he's gone kerosene and said, hey, I can keep the house warm with my kerosene heater. No. Portable generator. If you do have a power outage and your tenant has a portable generator, first of all, I would not ever recommend you loaning them a generator. I think we can all see the reason why that's a bad idea. I mean, you don't loan them refrigerators, let alone a portable generator. But if they do use a portable generator for some reason, make sure it's outside. Make sure that when they bring the power cables in, they shut the window or the door as much as possible. I mean, I've seen generators where they're right outside the door, the exhaust is shooting into the 3-inch crack in the house. If you can smell exhaust, you can also see carbon dioxide. Now, there is a really neat, as part of your discussion, if you want to have that, you can go to this website right here, get this really neat, colorful brochure, which you can hand to your tenant. Again, this is not a requirement. Hand it to your tenant, have the discussion, and it talks, it's from the Department of Commerce, so it's state sanctioned. So if and when, probably when this becomes law, you will have already been complying with the law. It tells the tenant what the sources of carbon monoxide are. It tells them to make sure they test it. It tells them they must have, signs of carbon monoxide poisoning. It's a real easy, quick way to have something to hand out and you don't prepare anything. Yes. It's the government. Oh, I'm sorry, this is underlined right here. You're missing that. Okay, where to locate CO detectors? Well, unlike smokes, you can put one per floor. They generally cover 40 to 50 feet radius around where they're plugged in, where they're located. And they recommend one in a central location outside each sleeping area on every level of the home. So if you have a 2-story home with a basement, you're going to have 3 carbon monoxide detectors. Now, as I said, you can combine that. You go to Lowe's, get ahead of the game, go to Home Depot, and buy, since you need smoke detectors anyway, buy 3 smoke detectors that have carbon monoxide in them. Yes, you're going to pay more, but you've already got it covered. And we'll talk a little about that as we get to the smoke section. Okay, when rehabbing, current law, only if a permit is required. So if you are rehabbing a property and you need to pull a permit for that rehab, you need to put in carbon monoxide detectors. That's the current law, January 1st, 2013. Yes, ma'am.
Do these have to be hardwired or just batteries?
They can be battery or hardwired.
Okay, so hardwired is not yet required.
They actually, both of them are legal. The code clearly says it can be battery plug in with battery backup, or hardwire with battery backup. All three of them are legal there. I'm sorry, what? Every bed, well, no, not every bedroom should have one. That's not required. If you really want to go to the full extent of what some states are required, yes, but here what I'm recommending is at least one per floor. And as I said, you can combine it with the CO if you want, I mean with smoke if you want. But what I want you to understand is that inspectors, particularly Kettering, and some of the other inspectors are more conscious now of carbon monoxide. This has become, the drum is starting to beat. Like it beat for smoke detectors back in the 60s and 70s. People were dying in houses. Now it's beating for carbon monoxide because about 500 people a year die in the United States from carbon monoxide poisoning. Interesting enough, about 60 of those were in Ohio. Fairly high for this state, I thought. Now we do have gas heat. We'll talk. In fact, let me stop you for just a second. Let me talk about why you need to worry about that and what some of the sources are. And I think we'll get to this in another slide. But one of the ways in which carbon monoxide can build up in your house, unbeknownst to you, is that the flue gets basically stopped up. Now, how can it get stopped up? Bird nest, the inner liner of the brick would fall in. Let's see, the HVAC company you have doesn't attach the new furnace flue to the old brick fireplace or brick flue the way they should be. Gee, they never happened to us, did it? Yes, sir.
Dead raccoon.
Dead raccoon. Okay, and again, you can't tell. By the way, that's a true story. We had a CO detector in one of our rentals, and it went off within about 20 minutes after the HVAC guy left because he didn't put the flue into the 100-year-old brick stash properly. So we had to call him back. Fortunately, we had a carbon monoxide detector in the place. They had kids too, so that would have been a real issue. So, it's not a bad idea to have that, but those are some of the sources. Now, you say, okay, I've got a new 95% efficient HVAC system, and I got this 4-inch pipe going outside. Birds love to build nests in that little pipe. As a matter of fact, there's a little vent in that little pipe too that prevents one-way airflow. That vent can get basically bent and plugged up. So there's, even with the new high-efficient furnaces, in fact, especially with the new high-efficient furnaces, I would think because your houses are tighter if you've got newer homes, it's going to even be worse. But, if the old brick flue, the old thick fireplace, we had to line it with ours. It just basically, they were leaking so fast. Okay, so back to rehabbing. As I said, some of the inspectors are more important to this. So if you're doing major demolition, if you're gutting about a half or more of the house, and you live in Huber or Kettering or someplace, or your house is in Huber, Kettering, someplace like that, go ahead and add carbon dioxide, because your inspector's going to go, hey, you've done a major rehab. It used to be 25%, and I heard 50%. Now I've heard it's at the inspector's discretion. So they're more aware of this. And you may want to consider adding one for buyer's peace of mind. Isn't it great? You've got a CO detector in the house. Okay, any questions on COs? Okay, let's switch over to smoke detectors. The current smoke detector code, residential critical health, was put in place in 2006, and it does require all landlords to provide a working smoke alarm on each level of your home, including the basement. That's been in place since 2006. How many times have you gone to your tenant and you discovered the battery's missing from the smoke detector because they wanted to put it in their, 4 times. They wanted to put it in their kid's toy, or it was beeping, or something like that. I've got a solution for you. We'll get towards that. Okay, generally alarms should be placed in the center of the ceiling or on a wall. There should be 6 to 12 inches from the ceiling. I believe I have a diagram. Here we go. So here's a couple, again, perfectly code-required places for it. So here's your living room. You want to put it down the hall towards the bedroom. And again, this is a 12-foot requirement from these doors. By the way, don't put a smoke detector in the kitchen. All you do is get false alarms. people burn toast. I mean, in my business, we put in monitoring smoke detectors for both commercial and residential. And I actually got a call, this was probably 5 years ago, on a Sunday from a fire department, from a fire chief who I happen to know, and he wanted to know if I had a way to access one of my clients' homes. And I said, no, he said, they're not here, and break in, so there was smoke in the house. And they had burnt bacon on the stove. They turned the stove on. These people were smart. One of them was a lawyer. They put bacon on the stove, turned it on, and went to the store to get eggs. So it happens, right? So locations are, as you can see, the bedroom is the most important, but 1 foot forward is also a requirement for them. What do you want to talk to your tenant about? Well, test your smoke detector monthly. Are they going to do that? No, but you can tell them to do it. How about yearly or twice a year when you change your clock or change your batteries? So a good time in the tenant's mind is, okay, we've changed the time, the daylight saving time has come and gone. Go ahead and just change the battery in your smoke detector. Is that going to happen? No. Have a home fire escape plan, practice it. That may happen. We've talked to people about that, particularly ones with children, particularly like single parents. Tell them, how to get out of the house. You thought about how to get out of the house. If you taught your kids, 8-year-old kids, to feel the door at the top, and if the door's hot, don't open the door. Simple things like that. Simply because bedroom doors closed. Are they going to do that? Probably not. But the third one there, have an escape plan, has actually saved lives. If there's a way to get out on the roof that's not burning and shimmy down the drain pipe, you may get some scratches, but you're still alive. And at least once a month, I hear people died in their house, or they, something like that, and the fire department comes in and says there was no smoke detectors in the property. Come on, there's 7 boxes with battery-operated smoke detectors. Now, if you notice the last one down there is my gift today. This is what we've been doing. We got tired of replacing batteries. They now sell smoke detectors that are 10-year life. They have cesium 123M. They do not have an ability. You can't access the battery. It's sealed, so your tenant can't get in there. So you put it up. It's guaranteed for 10 years. It'll start beeping within 10-year life. You're done. Now, that's not to say they can't take it off the wall and throw it against the wall. They can do that. I've tried blocking them. I've tried scraping them in place. It still happens, but at least you don't have to worry about the batteries. And yes, you can buy those at Home Depot too. They are, I want to say about 20, they're about 2 or 3 times, probably about 25 bucks. 29? Yeah, I think it's well. 30 bucks. That I don't know. There you go. I would imagine you should go ahead.
Does that one include the carbon monoxide?
That's what you just asked. No, I don't know that. I don't know that.
Okay.
Yeah. I would imagine that sooner or later some police companies will come out with it. So I think that's going to be sooner rather than later. Because again, as I said, 27 states are requiring this. So there's a lot of landlords out there who are already requiring to do this. Okay, let's talk a little bit about rehabbers. Okay, this is the code. Ohio Fire Code has no retroactive requirement to install smoke detectors in single-family dwelling units, unless it's rated R or it's multifamily or something like that. Then there is a requirement. So if you bought a home built in 1920, technically you are not required to put a smoke detector in it. Are you going to pass some inspection if you retail it? No. Are you going to pass in any sort of inspection if you're a landlord? No. So the way in which they've worded this has come under fire, and it's also going to be changed as part of Senate Bill 146, which is going to change this. So basically, if you retail a property, put smoke detectors in it. So basically put 1 per 4 of the property. In addition, consider 1 per bedroom. Now, there's a reason why we put 1 in a bedroom. The reason why that law was passed in 2006. And there was a young girl, she was 11 years old, in New Jersey. She was burning candles in her bedroom. It went on fire. she had a solid wood door for a bedroom. She was dead before her parents even knew there was a fire in the house. So that's when you put smoke detectors in bedrooms. And that resonated nationwide. It became topics of presentations at various seminars I go to. And it became law in every state union within 3 or 4 years. Unbelievable how quickly that got passed. Yes, sir.
Your picture didn't show them in the bedroom, it showed them in the hallway outside with the door open.
I modified that one for what's required. If you build new construction, if you're a new homeowner, new builder, you have to put it in every bedroom. Okay, there's something else about that. Dave, you saw that thing back there where it said don't locate no more than 12 inches from the wall. There's a reason for that. So if you're trying to figure out where to put the smoke detector in your hallway of your home built in the 1930s and the hallway's only this wide, and there's a light right here, and there's this attic vent right here, well, don't put it within 6 inches of the light, because the light's a heat source. Don't put it near where an air return is, because that'll cause false alarms. But don't put it closer than 12 inches to a corner. Actually, you can get by with 10 inches. It's something called smoke roll. Smoke tends to come up a wall and roll at the corner. And if you put the detector right in the corner, it'll never see the smoke. Now remember, smoke detectors basically operate on 2 different principles. They operate on the principle of visually seeing particulate matter in the air. Okay, what they have is they have a little LED, like your garage door opener LED. Somebody stands in front of the garage door, doesn't go down. So here's the LED, and here's the detector. And if there's smoke in the way, the alarm goes off. There's a second version that detects temperature rise, and that detects the smaller particulates. There are 2 types of fires. Most of the fires in homes burn large particulates, wood, things like that. However, some of the newer properties, we have a lot of plastics in the house. They burn faster and hotter, and they burn smaller particulates. They're more deadly too. So that's why home fires in newer homes tend to be quite a bit more deadly than even older homes, because what's burning in an older home is dry wood. What's burning in a newer home is a tremendous amount of petroleum products, which will kill you by itself, along with smoke. So there's 2 types, but both of those types are legal in Ohio at this point in time. And are there any questions? Yes, sir. Not within 12 inches of the wall. And sometimes that's hard. Believe me, I do this for a living.
You talked about installing the carbon monoxide on a wall better than the middle wall instead of ceiling.
Both of them are by code. If I'm mounting it in a basement, I would like to put it about 4 foot cover height near where the furnace is or where the water heater is. Now, if you've got a situation where the water heater is over there and the furnace is in another room, just put it in the ceiling. But if I have a point source, like the furnace and the water heater together, I'm going to try to get it as close as possible to that point source.
And then what about the combined units? The
Combined one, no, that has to go in the ceiling. Yeah.
Some CO2 detectors say it should be 20 feet away from possible sources like a furnace or a gas water heater.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the sources of it. Like I said, there's water heaters and there's furnaces. Some of them are overly sensitive, and I will tell you a story that simply came up in a presentation that I saw back in April of this year. The National Fire Protection Association tested 30 of the no-name CO detectors on the market that you plug in the wall. None of these are available at Home Depot, by the way. They come off the market. And half of those detectors either were too sensitive or weren't sensitive enough. So buy a name brand, buy Fire Alert or Fire Lighter. In other words, this is not an area where you're going to cheat. If you got ones that are $29 and ones that are $5, buy the $29 one, because the $5 one probably is not going to work. They're fairly complicated devices, so spend the $29 on it. Did that answer your question? No. Anybody else? Yes.
Are there any requirements for fire extinguishers?
No. Not in residential property. There are in commercial property.
What about in multifamily?
Yes.
Where
In
do
the
we
hallway.
find that requirement at?
In the hallway, it is, ask me and I'll show you.
Okay, great.
It depends upon the age of the building too. next bill. Class A would almost always have it.
Thanks.
If we install CO detectors or smoke detectors, do you think our insurance would give us a break?
Only if you're the homeowner.
State Farm has a discount for rental properties. If you have a fire extinguisher, deadbolt, smoke detectors, CO2 detectors. I get one.
Zach, do you?
Most companies that we have, they won't insure you if you don't have smoke detectors at least.
Right, but you get a discount if you go.
I've seen some discounts with some companies, but the discounts are usually in like $5 or $10 a year, so it's not gonna be a huge savings.
I do know that Allstate and State Farm and some of that, if you're the homeowner, if you're the residential, you can get up to 20% off your homeowner's insurance.
Do you need a CO monitor if there's a rear in all electric homes?
No, technically not. It did say that you have to have a source of gas in the house. So if I'm an all-electric home and I have a heat pump, you probably do not need a carbon monoxide detector unless you're going to operate a kerosene in the house or a generator, which I do not recommend you do. So if you have an electric home, no, you don't need a carbon monoxide. You have no source of it.
You have a garage and a car.
Well, that's true. If your garage is underneath your house, then you need one.
What about fireplace?
Fireplace is a point source, but in the last 10 years of research, we've never actually seen one that had enough of an issue to be a problem. Unless it was really bad and was flaming up or something like that. Most of those things burn so low, it's not funny. Anything else?
8 years ago, 8 states passed mandatory carbon monoxide detector laws that required whenever a real residence was conveyed, it had to have working CO2 detectors. Those 8 states reduced their carbon monoxide deaths by 85%. So, tenants are valuable resources. Spend $30. Cover your ass.
Real good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. I don't know if you guys know, Mike is GDREIA's vice president of the board. Mike is also in charge of our workshops and has just finished our bus tour, and it was a great success. Mike, thank you so much for all that you do for GDREIA. You know, GDREIA is run by volunteers, and we're always looking for somebody else, some other more bodies. So if you have a little bit of time and would like to get involved in GDREIA, see one of the board members. Like I said, we're always looking for help. There's only so much we can do. Trust me. Okay. Let's see. Let me, Mike, when you step outside, would you ask all the vendors to come in so that they can be introduced? If you are a guest today, would you raise your hand? Yes? Great. Welcome. When we go into a break, you'll go with Kathy Frye, and she'll give you some more information on GDREIA, but let's give them a welcome. Thank you so much. How many members? Do we have any brand new members here tonight? We're not a brand new member, Mr. Tim Depp. Mr. Tim Depp raised his hand. He's the secretary of GDREIA, and we thank you for your time too. So no new members. Okay, great. Vendors. Let me give all of the vendors time to introduce yourself. Zach, I'm going to let you start in the back.
My name is Zach Getthews. I work with Ohio Insurance Solutions. We insure a lot of the people here. We do a lot of insurance for rental dwellings, whether it's 1 unit or 20 units or even more. We also do a lot of home and auto. If you guys are interested in your personal, we'd love to try to save you some money.
Great. Mike Jasko is, Zach works with Mike Jasko, and they have a great product. Mr. Bob Rothman.
Bob Rothman, Ex Realty Partners. We do property management. you get the rentals, and we manage them and try to keep the cash flow going powerful.
Great. Jeff?
Jeff Race, is any glass and lock? Any of your door, window, lock, glass block, stuff like that? We're here to help.
Great. Sean?
Sean Murray, HCR Realtors, and I've been with GDREIA for 41 years. I specialize in investment properties and work with investors.
Great. Mike?
Mike Frye, Country Security.
Great. Darren?
Darren Carey with Homes and More. I sell properties at wholesale that are not listed in the MLS, specifically for landlords and rehabbers.
Great. Did I miss any vendors? Oh, Dave Murray.
Dave Murray, CPA. We help our clients stop wasting money overpaying taxes.
Thank you. Dave is a contributor to our newsletter every month too, and we thank you for that. Yes, sir.
Pete Julian with Pathfinder Really Octagon Holdings and Triple Net Houses. We buy, rehab, and rent out the houses that we rehab. Sometimes we flip them as well. We're always looking for new contractors and new houses to buy. So if anyone has some houses that they want to wholesale or something like that, we could be interested.
Great. Thank you, Pete. Did I miss anyone else? Okay. Marsha Grossman will be selling the picnic tickets during the break. Our picnic is July the 2nd. It's $5 for family. That includes your meat and condiments and drinks. We ask that you bring a dish to share. You can't go anywhere and eat for $5 for your family. So it's a great time just to network and enjoy beautiful sunshine, the beautiful summer weather. Okay. Before we take a break, let's open up for buy, sell, and trade. Make it very short and sweet. Buy, sell, and trade. Anybody have anything to buy, sell, and trade? Mr. Joe.
I have a beautiful oak handrail that will now fit in a cheap rental. It's 3 inches wide, 3 inches tall, 12 feet long. And if you want a piece of red oak that'll look great and beautiful, come see me fairly soon, please.
Okay. Anybody else? Buy, sell, trade. All right. We will take a 10-minute break. This is your time to get in touch with some of the vendors here. It's time for you to get in touch with some of the other members who've been there, done that, can help you out on what you might be looking for. And the library is opened. It will be closed after the break. So we'll see you in 10 minutes. Those that are guests, please go with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, great. I was on the web today looking for a quote on summer, and I found this quote, and I thought it was really kind of cute. A perfect summer day is when the sun is shining, the breeze is blowing, the birds are singing, and the lawnmower is broken. It's broken. Yeah. Unless you're me, I love to get on my little riding lawnmower and mow the yard in the nice sun. But if you've got one of those push things, that's kind of nice. Okay. We have, last night was wholesaling. We've had cash flow this past weekend. The next time next opportunity, our next networking opportunity is on June the 14th. That is our Sing group, Saturday Investors Networking Group. That's at the Frisch's in Moraine, 9 o'clock. Go have breakfast and network with other GDREIA members. Our next meeting, June 18th, this is going to be a big meeting for us. We have asked the expert, Tony Falco, is going to come in and talk about electricity. But then we have Pete Young, who is a national speaker. He's going to come in and talk about rehabbing. He knows the ins and outs on contracts and how to deal with contractors and that kind of stuff. So he is excellent, and we are very glad to be bringing him in. he is going to be hosting a one-day workshop on June the 28th that you need to get signed up for. Dinners and deals will be on the 26th of June, and that's at the TGI Fridays, close to the Dayton Mall. And then in July we have the picnic. Marcia is selling tickets for the picnic. It's July 2nd. Picnic starts at 6. And then starting next month in July, we did a survey. How many of you took the survey? Either online or with Timmy? Okay. We used that survey and went through the results, and we came up with some interesting things. One of them is we find that we need to reach out to more different kinds of investing here in GDREIA. We want to reach out to all types of investors. So starting in July the 16th meeting, we will have Ask the Expert in the beginning of the meeting, and then we're going to break up into 3 groups. We are going to have GDREIA 101. Mike Frye is going to do GDREIA 101. We generally do GDREIA 101 workshop twice a year, but we find that we've got new people that are coming, and they don't have time to wait till the next GDREIA 101. So we're going to break up into groups. Mike is going to do the GDREIA 101. Marcia is going to do investors for those of you who do investing, and then Paul Ragland is going to be doing landlording. So, so that'll be every second meeting of the month. We're going to try and break out into those 3 groups and help you out as a real estate investor in any way that we can. So that all came out of the survey that we did, and we thank each and every one of you who participated in that. Okay, any questions on meetings coming up? Good. Okay, now we're going to do door prizes. And it looks like Mr. Sean Reddy has donated these wonderful flashlights. We all can use flashlights. Okay. Okay. 691814. Oh, awesome. All right, Kaylee. Way to go, Kaylee.
Check a ticket.
Well, for sure. It's true. Kay Lake is also one of our board of directors, so we thank you, Kay, for what you do. Sean Reddy is also one of our board of directors, and he does a lot for us, so we thank you too. Last three numbers, 808. And this is for John McCann, donated a tape measure. 808. 21. Okay, next one. 815. 815. Okay, maybe they're outside. They snooze, they lose. 816.
Mix those up.
Oh, here we go. All right. There you go. Leslie's going to take your picture. Oh, John McCann has donated 1 free picnic ticket. So that's for families. That's awesome. 796. All right. Well, there you go, Bill. You get to come to the picnic for free. That was a nifty idea. And then Bob Rothman has donated these wonderful calculators. We have 2, 797. Oh, Vicki, awesome. There you go, Vicki. And one more, we have 813. Awesome. Congratulations. There you go. Okay. Any questions? Do you read a question? No, great. Okay, then. It is a pleasure that we have Equity Trust here, known for IRAs. And Mr. John Fallon is going to enlighten us all about equity trust and what they have and IRAs.
Very much. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Again, my name is John Bones. I am a representative from Equity Trust Company. We are a passive, self-directed IRA custodian. And really, my goal today is to educate you guys. I'm not here to tell you guys to run to the back of the room and take up your credit cards and, buy my course or education project, right? I'm here to provide a very content-rich program. So that's what I intend on doing. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the education today. And from the title of my presentation, I have Assembling My Private Bank. So it means a lot of different things to me, and it means a lot of different things probably to you. Number one, it means assembling your private bank of tax-free dollars. So what we're talking about is accumulating multiple accounts in multiple tax-free accounts to eventually be able to incorporate into your real estate business or your real estate enterprise. Then once we talk about accumulating tax-free dollars, then we can talk about taking those tax-free dollars and then taking them to the next level and putting them into a business practice, which we'll talk about. Okay, so let me go ahead and get right into the presentation before we get started. Before we get started, I do have to provide this disclaimer that I, nor Equity Trust Company, nor our educational affiliate, Equity University, will provide any tax, legal, or financial advice. And I, nor Equity Trust Company, nor our educational affiliate, Equity University, will provide any tax, legal, or financial advice. And if you are looking for that type of advice, you need to seek out the advice of an attorney or tax professional or financial professionals. Okay? Everybody get it? Good. Okay. So let's get into the real content, because I'm the type of person that I hate introductions, I hate introducing myself, and I hate introducing the actual topic of what we're talking about. I'd rather just get right into the nitty-gritty of what we want to learn and the actual content that we want to talk about, okay? So let's get started. These are the 7 accounts afforded to us by the federal government. Back in 1974, the Employee Retirement Income Securities Act was passed. Is everyone familiar with the Employee Retirement Income Securities? Anybody? ERISA? No? One person. ERISA, 1974. Employee Retirement Income Securities Act. Prior to ERISA, what did we rely on? We relied on 2 types of retirement. Social Security, right? And there's another type of pension, right? Formerly known as defined benefit. John F. Kennedy in 1961 said, you know what? The retirement system in this nation is broken. We need to fix it. 1961. It wasn't until 1974 that it actually got fixed. Right? Come on, we got all that, right? Right. Takes 70 years for that. That was way before my time, right? So, but it took that many years for the retirement system to actually be revitalized and recouped. And now we have what we have today. But you know what? It's a good thing that we have what we have today, because we can invest in a wide array of alternative assets. We can invest in real estate. We can invest in notes. We can invest in trust deeds. We can invest in small businesses. We can invest in joint venture capitalist opportunities. We can invest in precious metals. We can invest in a wide array of alternative assets. In fact, there's only a few asset classes that we cannot invest in with our self-directed retirement account. And those would be collectibles, life insurance policies, and subject to S corporations. Those are 3 types of assets that we cannot invest in with our self-directed retirement account. So the IRS is exclusive rather than being inclusive. So we can invest in all of these alternative asset opportunities, and that's what my business is. That's what our business is, as far as equity trust is concerned, is investing in alternative assets, investing in assets that are not correlated to the traditional stock market. Because most people are accustomed to investing in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, more traditional securities. Our specialization, our core competency is investing in these alternative assets. And it's not just helping individuals invest in these types of alternative assets, it's empowering individuals, it's educating individuals, helping individuals understand how they can invest in these types of alternative assets. And it all starts with these 7 tax-exempt investment accounts. So back in 1974, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act was passed. And out of this act gave birth to all of these 7 accounts. So we're going to talk about, throughout this presentation, the traditional IRA, the Roth IRA, small business accounts, and we're going to talk about some alternative accounts. Some accounts that are not necessarily retirement focused, but rather they're focused on helping our children or our grandchildren, or helping ourselves in our healthcare related expenses. So we're going to talk about these additional accounts. Now, when we talk about the traditional Roth IRA, just by a show of hands, most of you are probably familiar with the traditional Roth IRA, correct? Okay. So a traditional IRA is a tax-deferred IRA, which means when we put money into the account, we get a tax deduction. So we put $5,000, $6,000 in the account, we get a tax deduction. Then we grow the account tax-deferred, so we avoid ordinary income or capital gains tax in each of the year. But eventually, after 59.5, we have to pay taxes on the distributions from that account. That's a traditional IRA. It started in 1974. The Roth IRA account, in contrast, is a tax-free IRA, which means when we put money into the account, we have to pay taxes, but all the income grows 100% tax-free, and then eventually, when we take money out of the account after 59.5, we don't pay a single dime in taxation. So if we have $100,000 in a traditional IRA, and we grow to $1 million at the age of 60 years old, if we take $1 million out of a traditional IRA, how much are we going to pay in taxes? 39.6%, right? You have the highest tax bracket, 39.6%. With a Roth IRA, we don't pay a single dime in taxes. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to take all of the money out of our traditional IRA at 60 years old, $1 million, right? We're probably going to take it out in progression. So we're going to take $100,000 in year 1, $100,000 in year 2, $100,000 in year 3, $100,000 in year 4. So we're going to spread it out. But still, even with that, we're going to pay $20,000 year 1, $20,000 year 2, $20,000 year 3, right? So on and so forth. We have a Roth IRA account. We grow it to $1 million. We take $100,000 year 1, $100,000 year 2, $100,000 year 3. We don't pay a single dime in taxes. So it can have a profound effect on our long-term financial return. So that's what we're talking about in this presentation, is how you can utilize a self-directed Roth IRA account, but also know that if you have a self-directed traditional IRA, there are still opportunities for growth. There's still opportunities to be able to develop a tax-free growth account, and we're going to talk about how you can do that. So with that being said, let me go ahead and jump into our compounding interest calculator. So if you are an individual that is starting at the age of, let's say, 30, and you're going to grow your account for the next 20 years, growing at 10% per year, factoring in a 28% interest rate, you will have saved just over $336,000. Now, if you were to pay taxes in each incremental year at a 28% marginal tax rate, you would have paid over $135,000 in taxes. So That's the effect of compounding interest on your long-term financial return. And that's the point that we're making throughout this entire presentation, is how you can utilize a self-directed IRA, 401k, or any other retirement account, and you can buy and sell real estate. You can buy and sell businesses. You can buy and sell a variety of alternative assets, and you don't pay taxes. And when you don't pay taxes, the long-term compounding effects of financial return are that much more profound. Okay? So what kind of alternative assets can you invest in with your self-directed retirement account? Well, as I mentioned before, there's only a few types of assets that you cannot invest in with your self-directed IRA. And those would be collectibles, life insurance, and subject or S corporations. Okay, those are the types of assets, and unfortunately the IRS, the Federal Government Department of Labor, says that you cannot invest in. Everything else you can invest in. So if you are interested in some light reading, okay, if you're suffering from insomnia, you can go to publication 590, go to page around 50, and it's a PDF downloadable document on the IRS website, and you can find this information. And you'll see that the IRS is exclusive rather than being inclusive again. So they tell us what we can't invest in. We can't invest in these types of assets. So we absolutely can invest in real estate. And it absolutely aggravates me because there's so many individuals that they talk to their financial advisor, they talk to their financial planner, and they say, oh, well, I can't invest in real estate. I can't invest in non-traded REITs. I can't invest in notes. I can't invest in businesses. I can't invest in LLCs. I can't invest in limited partnerships. I can't buy and sell precious metals because their financial advisor or their financial planner tells them that they can't do it. Well, it's absolutely not the truth. It's just a matter of choice. So a lot of these alternative asset providers, like Equity Trust Company, we allow you to invest in these types of assets, whereas a lot of the brokers, dealers that you might be familiar with, they don't allow you to invest in these alternative assets. Why? Because they don't have the facilities, they don't have the personnel, they don't have the infrastructure to allow you to invest in these alternative asset mechanisms. So we allow you to invest in these types of alternative assets. In fact, we encourage and recommend, and we really empower our clients to invest in these types of alternative assets. It's an extremely powerful concept. In fact, we not only encourage individuals, but we invest in alternative assets on our own. So, for instance, my self-directed 401k. With my self-directed Roth 401k, I have used my self-directed Roth 401k to go out and buy an individual rental property in the Cleveland area and rent it out. Not that it's the greatest appreciating asset, right? It's kind of a joke. Everybody's been laughing, right? It's not the greatest appreciating asset, but it's a cash flowing rental property. So now I have cash flowing rental coming back into my self-directed Roth 401k. And eventually when I sell that asset, although there's long-term capital gains, all of that income goes back into my Roth 401k, and I don't pay a single dime in taxes because it's my Roth 401k. It's exempt from taxation. So I don't pay taxes. All the income that I derive from my rental, I don't pay taxes. No recaptured depreciation, et cetera, et cetera. So there are so many benefits when using a self-directed IRA, 401k, or any other investment account when buying and selling real estate. And there are so many different niches within the niche. So when I say niches within the niche, I'm talking about real estate as a niche, right? So when I look at investing in any type of asset class, I look at different niches. So I look at the real estate niche. And then what is niches within the real estate niche? Well, there's niches within real estate niche as in cooperative lease option, wholesale, lease option, buy and hold, buy, fix and sell, right? So there are a variety of different strategies within that particular type of asset class. And our clients are deploying those types of various asset classes. So they're investing in buy, fix and sell, buy, fix and hold. They're investing in cooperative lease options. They're investing in a wide array of alternative asset opportunities. And you can utilize any mechanism that you're using now with your self-directed retirement account, IRA, 401k, might be a covered education savings account, might be a health savings account, might be any type of alternative investment account. But the point that I want to make here is that you can utilize these various investment accounts or structures so that you don't pay taxes on any of your investment returns. And that's the key point to what we're talking about today, is that you can utilize these various investment accounts to invest in alternative assets and not pay taxes. So we want to show you how to do that. So with that being said, and before I go any further, is there any questions that anybody has so that I can make sure that we're on the right page? Because I do these presentations all over the country. In fact, I do a 6 to 7 hour presentation on Saturdays all across the country, and I encounter people who are very, very advanced. I encounter people that are just getting started. So I really want to make sure that, especially for this group of individuals, that I tailor my presentation and the content that I deliver to what you guys are trying to explore, what you guys are trying to get out of today, rather than me just standing up here and talking about, self-directed IRAs, because I can get into disqualified persons, Internal Revenue Code 4975E2, Publication 408, Internal Revenue Code 408, Section E2, 75789. I mean, I can get super, super nerdy on you guys, but you guys probably don't want me to get you super nerdy, right? Yes?
Would you repeat the three that you cannot? I got collectible, life insurance, and what was the third?
Subchapter S corporations. So, if you invest in a Subchapter S corporation, it will revert to a C corporation for tax purposes. And you would not want your IRA investment to be reverted to a C corporation investment for tax purposes, unless you ran into a situation where you ran into what we call unrelated business taxable income, where it might make sense because the egregious tax rate of BTI is much more than the actual corporate tax rate. But again, we're getting self-directed IRA like 701. So. Yes.
What kind of concerns or things do you guys do with self-directed IRAs in relating to required minimum distribution, somebody who's close to retirement age?
So the question is regarding required minimum distribution. So that's when you're 70 and a half, you have to start taking money out of your account. And that's, as cold as it sounds, that's the federal government saying, you know what, you're starting to get older and you have to start taking money out of your account. Because we want to take as much money out of your account as possible before you pass away, and then leave it to your children where they're going to have to take less money out of their account. So as far as required minimum distributions are concerned, the way we annotate that is we're going to look at the actual fair market valuation of the account. We're going to look at the asset value, and then we're going to calculate how much you have to take out of the account. So, but if you have other self-directed IRAs or 401ks or any other retirement accounts, you can actually take your required minimum distributions from that account rather than taking from the self-directed IRA.
You have people having to sell property so that they have enough money to get inside the account for basic care.
I've never had anybody have to do that. If they did, in their first year at 70.5, based on the divisor, which is 27.4, the actual rate is 3.6%. If I do my math correctly, yes, 3.6%. So only 3.6% of the actual principal balance would have to be taken as a distribution. So it'd be about $3,600 on a $100,000 asset. do all those calculations for you.
But if you wouldn't take a property, you had the option of just transferring that property to a purple county.
You could, yeah, you could take actually a distribution of the asset. So what I would do is I would quitclaim deed a portion of my property or the entire property to myself personally. But if I quitclaim deeded the entire property to me, it'd be a significant tax burden. So it might not be in my best interest to do that. So if I had a $100,000 property, for example, and I take a distribution of $100,000, it's a $100,000 tax burden. That is going to be significant. So I might not be willing to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3.6%, because based on the divisor at 70.5, 27.4, that's all I have to take out. So I'm just going to take, let's say, 4% from the account, which is $4,000. I pay tax on the $4,000. Now I have a property that is deeded 4% to me personally and 96% to my IRA. Yes?
Concerning Brian's sale on rental, specifically sale on rental, does Frank go notify somehow?
Yes. Dodd-Frank, yes. Dodd-Frank will still apply to a retirement account, and you have to be considerate of that, especially because it's a self-directed IRA, because it's under the auspices of the federal government that is navigating and looking around at those types of accounts. So, yes.
There is no way to avoid it?
No. You're never going to know if it's Dodd-Frank, unfortunately. Never. Mm-hmm. Right.
That doesn't apply on a blank contract.
Right. But
How much the total amount of that house is enforced?
well, not necessarily. So with Dodd-Frank, and again, going back to my initial disclaimer, I'm not an attorney. Sometimes I pretend to be an attorney because I know a lot about Dodd-Frank and I've done a lot of research, and I deal in mortgages, I deal in land contracts, so I understand that business. But at the same time, I'm not going to provide financial advice or legal advice to you. But what I will tell you is a self-directed retirement account, an IRA, a 401k, a covered education savings account, regardless of the type of account that I'm talking about, you still have to adhere to the same rules applied as far as Dodd-Frank is concerned. So, if you are to buy, fix, and sell on financing, you have to adhere to Dodd-Frank, which means you're going to have to hire hire a mortgage originator that is going to be able to underwrite that mortgage for you. From what I understand, it might cost up to $800. Correct me if I'm wrong. Good. Any other questions? No? Yes. The metals are actually held at the Delaware Depository in Wilmington, Delaware. And that is with the Delaware Depository. They hold over 75% of the nation's precious metals. And they have a security vault there. So, in fact, I think I have So that's, there's multiple precious metals that you can hold in your self-directed retirement account. That is just one of them. That's a Canadian maple leaf. But you can also hold, please pass it around. It's only worth $20, so if anybody steals it, I really care less. You know? I mean, I have a track record of
$18.
yeah. So we can but yeah, you can hold silver eagles, gold eagles, Canadian maple leafs, gold maple leafs. There's a variety of different alternative assets that you can hold in your self-directed retirement account. And in particular, as far as gold and silver eagles are concerned, it has to be 0.999 purity. So essentially what it means is you can hold numismatic or rarity value coins in your self-directed retirement account. And that's because that's considered a collectible. So if you're holding a collectible in your self-directed retirement account, that's a prohibited asset or a prohibited transaction. But if you're holding a metal that has intrinsic value that you can actually melt down, so to speak, and then be able to take that and sell the gold bullion or the silver bullion to a manufacturer, well, that's considered an investment. So it's acceptable. So that's, yes, sir.
Well, connected to the same land contract. Can I invest in, let's say, inside the self-care, whatever, for a while? Can I invest in notes that are already created?
Can you invest in notes that you've already created? No.
Not me. Somebody over there is market to buy and sell.
Well, yes, there is a market to buy and sell notes, but you can't, if you originate a note, you cannot sell to yourself personally. But if you're looking to buy a non-performing loan, let me give you an example. I have a client.
If I want to buy, somebody created, let's say 5 years ago. Okay. Can I do that?
Well, it's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. Okay, so if I get a partner, and
yeah. So you can.
The partnership of family members. So I can arm that partner.
Yeah.
So I can do every one of them so 3 houses, the land design, and then I buy it.
Yeah. Technically, based on what you're saying, you could absolutely do what you're saying. Now you have to be careful because you have some family members involved there. But
I just said that no.
right. But what you're saying is not considered a prohibited transaction. I'm just protecting myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm not
So.
expert on this.
Right.
On this, but as far as I know,
Yes.
I'm just trying to, okay, no, it's bringing news, right?
Yes. Correct. Correct.
Why not?
Exactly. Give you an example. I have a client, his name is Michael Racicca, and he bought a $6,000 non-performing loan, which was originated from National City in 2006, subsequently sold to a private equity firm in 2010 in a bulk package, and then that private equity firm sold it to our client, who was using their IRA for $6,000 at a face value of $56,000, bought it for $6,000, immediately began performing, and he made over $8,000 in return over 3 years, and now he has another 22 years of $250 monthly payments, which are directed back to the self-directed retirement account, 100% tax-free. Now, eventually that note will pay off, right? And then he'll be able to utilize that self-directed retirement account or maybe into another alternative asset. But that is just one example of purchasing a non-performing loan. Yes, sir.
What about bitcoins or other cryptocurrencies? Are you allowed to?
Bitcoins and cryptocurrency, yes. We do have clients that have invested in bitcoins and other cryptocurrency. My opinion, personally, is I would never use my self-directed retirement account to invest in that type of asset.
Because of the volatility?
Me personally, if I'm going to put anything into any type of like long-term tangible asset like that, it's going to be metals, particularly silver or gold, but certainly you could do that if you wanted to. Yes?
Sorry, I missed
Yeah, sure, I can definitely do that.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so her question was, for those that are a little bit more of a novice to this, how do you walk through, we walk through this and actually guide you through the specifics, like the logistics of, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, and absolutely, we do that. Any other questions before I move on? Yes?
Making a couple of assumptions, so, just like, I know you have to be pretty hands-off as far as like maybe a rental, rehab, that kind of thing. So you hands-off, but yet I also think I know that we would be partner with your IRA in certain cases. Where is that line? How do you?
Yes, so you can certainly partner your self-directed IRA with your personal money. You have to make sure you do it appropriately. In fact, there's a Department of Labor advisory ruling, 2000-10A, not to get, again, super nerdy or, into the tax code, but you can research that, and it is acceptable to partner your personal money with your IRA money. You just have to make sure you do it concurrently. So, for example, if you're going to buy a $100,000 property, and you're going to take $50,000 from your IRA, $50,000 personally, you're going to close concurrently. So $50,000 comes from your IRA, $50,000 comes from you personally. You go to the title company. You enter into that contract as a tenants in common owner, and now 50% of all of your expenses are paid from your IRA, 50% are paid from you personally, and then 50% of all of the profits from the rental or sale of the property, or the interest you accrue on a loan, or the redemption, the tax lien, whatever it might be, flows back in accordance with that ownership interest.
Does it have to be 50-50 or 75-25?
It has to be, if you're partnering with a disqualified person, which disqualified person would include yourself to your IRA, your spouse to your IRA, your children, your grandchildren, your parents and grandparents, then yes, all that interest has to be flowing in accordance with that ownership interest. So, yes.
One question I have for you is, so equity trust basically for regular IRAs, Roth IRAs. What about simple IRAs? So let's say a simple IRA with your company. Can you open a simple IRA with an equity trust?
Yes, absolutely.
How would that work?
Yeah, so we will offer all self-directed retirement accounts as far as SEP IRAs, simple IRAs, solo 401ks, traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs are concerned. We can offer all of those types of accounts, and they're self-directed, so you can buy and sell real estate, notes, tax liens, various other alternative assets. So let me skip ahead when we talk about these various alternative assets, and so you guys can start to get a little bit better feel for the types of accounts that we offer. So there are 7 self-directed retirement accounts afforded to us by the federal government. The traditional IRA, Roth IRA account, SEP IRA, simple IRA, solo 401k, covered allocated savings account, and health savings account. Okay, so the traditional IRA is your standard IRA. If you have a 401k, you have a 403, you have a 457, you have a thrift savings plan, any other type of tax-deferred investment account, you would roll over into a traditional IRA account. Because when you put the money into the account, you get a tax deduction, then you grow it tax-deferred, and then eventually, after 59.5, that's when you pay the taxes. So that's a traditional IRA. So you move it over into a traditional IRA. The Roth IRA account is the opposite of a traditional IRA. So the Roth IRA, we put money in after tax. We don't get a tax deduction for it. We grow it 100% tax-free, and then eventually, when we take the money out after 59.5, we don't pay taxes. So the Roth IRA is really the preferred investment vehicle amongst real estate entrepreneurs and investors, because they're looking at that type of account and they're saying, okay, if I can grow this account to $300,000, $400,000, I don't want to ever pay taxes again on that money. So they can take that money, they can grow it 100% tax-free, continue to grow it 100% tax-free, take money out, not pay taxes, and then also leave it to their children, grandchildren, and other family members, and not also have to pay taxes. So the Roth IRA has really become the preferred investment vehicle, but the Roth IRA didn't come about until 1997 when Senator Roth from Delaware actually enacted legislation. So there's not many people that actually have a Roth IRA account. It's mostly a traditional IRA account that people have, that they're investing with, that they're actually actively pursuing and engaging in transactions with. So the traditional IRA, between the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA account, the traditional IRA is the more popular of the two accounts. Now there are also small business plans, so the SEP IRA, Simple IRA, and Solo 401k. Now of those three plans, the Solo 401k is the most popular of the three small business plans. And that's because most small business entrepreneurs, investors, recognize that they want an actual 401k very similar to like a corporate sponsored 401k they can adopt under the auspices of their actual business and be able to contribute to that plan in excess of what the traditional or Roth IRA provides them with. And then last but not least, the covered education savings account and health savings account. So you have an opportunity to be able to contribute to your children, grandchildren's covered education savings accounts. And if you have a high deductible health plan, you can contribute to the health savings account. So let me go through these just real briefly, and then we'll answer a few questions. So a traditional IRA, this is again a tax-deferred IRA. So when we put money into the account, we get a tax deduction. So we put money in the account, let's say $5,000, we get a tax deduction amount of $5,000. Now we have $5,000. We invest with that $5,000. We don't pay taxes in each incremental year. And then eventually when we take money out at the 59.5, we got to pay taxes. So you either pay taxes on the seed or taxes on the crop. The Roth IRA account is the opposite. So the Roth IRA, we put money in, we don't get a deduction for it. We grow out 100% tax-free. And then eventually when we take money out at 59.5, we don't pay a single dime in taxes. So this is, again, the preferred investment vehicle amongst real estate entrepreneurs or investors. Now, if you have a traditional IRA, yes? Yes, on a Roth IRA account, it would be the same. So the Roth IRA, if you take distributions prior to 59.5, you still have to pay a 10% penalty and ordinary income taxes.
On that Roth, you can take the gain as well as you can take the principal, right? For those penalties?
Not necessarily. There are ways that you can circumvent that law, and I know those ways, and I will not share them right now. For instance, if my son or daughter wants to go to college, higher educational learning, I can take money out of my Roth IRA, 100% tax and penalty free, and not pay a single dime in taxes to pay for their college tuition. So there are options with the Roth IRA account to buy and sell real estate, and then in addition to that, take those earnings and use them for college educational expenses. But you have to make sure that it qualifies, and you have to make sure that you're documenting everything appropriately. So yes, you can do it. I will show you how to do it, but we have to take it offline. Yes?
Can I convert individual account into business account?
No, not necessarily. So if you have personal IRAs, self-directed 401ks, other types of retirement arrangements, and you want to transition those into a self-directed retirement account, oftentimes you can't do it.
Or do you have to open another account?
Yes. You have to open a new self-directed Roth IRA account. You have to make a contribution.
Well,
and then once you make that contribution, then you can start using that money to buy and sell real estate and other alternatives, and then you be able to accumulate all that tax-free income.
okay, but if I already have some certain amount of money, can I roll over to, let's say, from Roth IRA to one business?
Yes.
I can do that.
Yes, that's possible. So with the Roth conversion, so for example, let's say you have $100,000 in a 401k or a traditional IRA, you can move it over into a Roth IRA.
No. I have.
And when you move it over,
let's say with you, okay? And now I can always say here that I get more money, I but I cannot put more money under individual to 6,500. Okay, under 401k, I can put up to 20,000. So right now, okay, I do, and I want to put more money into my retirement account. Can I convert individual or roll over into business 401k?
Yes, you could.
So him continue to put more money towards tax.
Yes, you could.
And the 5 years that I should not withdraw money start from today or from
It would be based on the old date. So, yes.
Okay, so it's average 5 years, for example, as an individual, and I roll over to business, so I can withdraw some money.
Yes.
More.
You could put $5,000 per year, every year, consecutively.
I feel the role for 1K, so I want to put more.
Right. Yes. Well, you have to be careful with how you're making contributions. So, if you're making contributions per year, up to 5,500, 6,500 when you're taking it over, you can make those contributions per year. However, if you're making an excess contribution, that can be considered a prohibited transaction. So you have to be very, very careful. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can. Yes, you can. Yes.
And I did not get to wait 5 years since I started.
Nope. You don't have to wait 5 years. You can make that rollover right now. Immediately roll over into a self-directed retirement account. Then from there you can begin organically growing that self-directed retirement account. And there's no limitations as far as organic growth. So if you roll over into a self-directed retirement account and then you begin organically growing that account, there's no limitations as far as organic growth. There's only limitations on the amount of money you actually take out of pocket and make the contribution to that self-directed retirement account. Yes. Yes.
That's 30 or 40,000 a year.
Yes.
Is there a salary cap on starting a Roth? Like a person with ordinary income over X amount of dollars would not be able to start a Roth?
Yes, unfortunately there is. If you make too much money, you gotta love the federal government, right? If you make too much money, you don't qualify for the Roth IRA. If you make over $191,000 in modified adjusted gross income, your modified adjusted gross income is essentially your adjusted gross income, not to take into account financial, foreign interest earned, and there's a few other exclusions that you factor in. But essentially your AGI is the same as your MAGI. But if you do make too much money, if you make over that 191 MAGI, then you can just contribute to a traditional IRA and then immediately convert over to a Roth IRA. So essentially it's a tax loophole. And that didn't come about until 2010. In 2010, the federal government lifted the MAGI limits, where prior to 2010, if you made over $100,000, you couldn't convert over to a Roth IRA. In 2010, they lifted those limits, so now we can contribute directly to a traditional IRA and then convert over to a Roth IRA. So what I do with many of my clients on an annual basis is I contribute first to a traditional IRA for them, and then I convert over to a Roth IRA. They also have SEP IRA accounts, so I have clients that are contributing to a SEP IRA in the amount of like $25,000, for example, and then they immediately convert over to a Roth IRA account. So I have a guy in Arizona, him and his son, they put $25,000 into a SEP every year, and then they immediately convert over to a Roth. So they put $25,000 into a Roth every year, just by contributing through a tax-deferred sub-IRA account first. And they can do that because they initially get the deduction from a tax standpoint, and then when they go through their tax return, they're going to claim that they converted X amount of dollars, and then that money goes into the Roth IRA. So there are a number of ways in which you can convert over from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA. Correct. It's still a taxable event because you're going from a tax-deferred account to a tax-free account. But the important thing to understand is that you can take these tax-deferred accounts and you can immediately convert them over into a Roth account without tax implications as far as penalties are concerned. Now, are there tax implications as far as taxation is concerned? Ordinary income taxes? Yes. So that's added to my ordinary income taxes. But for me personally, so this past year, I had $4,000 in a traditional IRA, tax-deferred IRA, because my firm put money into my tax-deferred account. Thank you, company, for putting money in my tax-deferred account. You got a tax reduction for it. Thank you so much. And you're getting all this on camera, so I really, really appreciate that. Please don't show this to my company, because I'm about to say some negative comments about them. So my company gets this huge tax deduction, right? Oh, they put $4,000 in my tax deferred account. Great. But I want to put this in my Roth account because when I'm buying and selling mobile homes, I don't want to pay tax ever again. My $250 in interest payments per month for my tenant buyers, I don't want to pay tax on that money. So I want to convert it over to the Roth IRA. So guess what I did? I took that money, $4,000, put it over in the Roth IRA account, in tax account. So I paid the tax bill for my company to get it over to the Roth account. $4,000. $4,000 is added to my ordinary income. $4,000 I had to pay taxes on. But that $4,000 in seed money I now have in my Roth IRA account, I can grow. And that $4,000 is going to create another $4,000, another $4,000, another $4,000, so on and so forth. So it's tax-free, and I never have to pay taxes again. So that's kind of the benefit of being able to convert from a traditional IRA to a Roth account, is that I don't have to pay taxes on any of the income that I accumulate going forward.
Can you do that even if it's in a self-directed?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Self-directed,
Can you invest in the stock market with that Roth IRA then?
I could, yeah, and I do.
You could?
So my, for example, and anyone here that has a self-directed retirement account with Equity Trust Company, you can take your money and you can invest in the stock market, you can invest in real estate, you can invest in mobile homes, you can invest in anything that you would like using that base account, because the account itself is not necessarily tied to a specific asset class. Rather, it's tied to an investment class that you can then take and invest in a variety of alternative assets. So, for example, I use my self-directed retirement account, and I, again, invest in mobile homes, I invest in a wide array of alternative assets, land trusts with multiple partners to invest in real estate, and then I can take my account and I can also put it into stocks, mutual funds, and other traditional securities, which I do as well. So I try and stay away from those assets because I've lost a lot of money, to be honest with you, and instead of investments, but I can't. Yes, sir.
So on your mobile home example that you mentioned, you take the funds from your traditional into your Roth, and then you purchase the mobile home, or you have a mobile home that you purchase through the traditional IRA, and then
only my Roth, but I could.
So you could have it over here in Roth.
Yes. For example, I could actually partner my self-directed IRA and my personal money in order to be able to buy and sell real estate. So, for example, let's say I have $50,000 in my Roth and $50,000 in my personal money. I'm going to put this thing down because I can't. So let's say I have $50,000 in my Roth and I have $50,000 in my personal money. I can take those monies and I can combine them together in order to be able to buy and sell real estate. I close concurrently. So I buy a $100,000 property. Let's say I take $50,000 from my Roth, I take $50,000 from my personal money. I go in as a tenants in common arrangement. $50,000 from my Roth, $50,000 personally. 50% of the equity in that company or equity in that investment is owned by my Roth, 50% is owned by me personally. Now 50% of all the expenses are going to be paid for my IRA, 50% are going to be paid for me personally. 50% of all the proceeds from the rental or sale of the property are going to flow back into my IRA. The other 50% are going to flow back to me personally. So I have the actual opportunity to be able to accumulate income personally as well as accumulate income in my IRA account by using this tenants account arrangement. And that's what many clients are doing with equity trust companies that understand that, hey, I want to be able to personally benefit in the here and now. I don't want to keep it all in my IRA account, or I don't want to necessarily keep it all personally. I want to be able to use a portion in my IRA and a portion personally in order to be able to purchase this asset.
Let me take it home. I'm an equity trust member, okay? I have real estate in my traditional IRA. My question is, that rental property that I have over there, generating income and stuff, can I move that to the wall? Take the hit. And then what you mentioned, the mobile homes example, all the rental income I'm getting and so forth, I don't have to.
Yes.
Okay.
So what you can do is you can actually initiate what we call in-kind asset conversion.
Okay.
It's going to be based on the fair market valuation of the asset, so it asks you to get a broker's opinion or a CMA on that asset. Send it in to me, and I'll convert that for you and report that to the IRS via 5498, showing the converted amount. And you will not pay that much in taxes. And I am not going to manipulate the figures, but I will take your word for the fair market valuation that you send in.
Gotcha.
I'll leave it at that.
I'm familiar with the little form you fill out to adjust the asset.
Yeah.
Got it. It's worth it.
So I can.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I'll repeat the question. So her question is regarding to if I am buying properties and I'm using personal money and IRA money, what can I do? What can I do as far as hands-on work? So let's talk about prohibited transactions, PTs. So prohibited transactions are when us personally or a disqualified person being somebody in our immediate family, is actually working on the property or is benefiting from the income from that asset. That's what a prohibited transaction is. So if we have an IRA-owned asset and we want to work on the property ourselves personally, if we're going to go out and actually purchase the fluid master and the flapper and install it ourselves personally, that would actually trigger a blatant prohibited transaction. I would consider that a prohibited transaction. Now, if I was an IRS agent and it's a $5.65 fluid master and flapper from Home Depot, I'm going to say to myself, okay, I'm probably not going to be able to get this person for that much money, right? Because it's only $5.65. But it is a blatant prohibited transaction. So you have to be careful with that. Now, what constitutes a blatant prohibited transaction that could be a serious, serious concern? Well, if you're a roofing company and you're going to put a roof on your IRA-owned property, it costs $20,000. That's probably going to be a transaction where the IRS, if you were to be audited, would consider a prohibited transaction, would constitute a violation of Internal Revenue Code 4975E2, furnishing goods, services, and facilities to disqualified persons and assets, et cetera, and you would have issues. Then you have to perform half of the services, and the IRA would have to perform the other half of the services. Right. Right. Possibly. See, I'm never going to give you an absolute direct answer. I'm sorry. I wish I could. I've worked with some of the highest level attorneys in this country as far as IRA investing is concerned. And what I can tell you is there's no definitive answer that we can give you as far as the priority of the transaction is concerned. What I can tell you is if you are doing these types of things, you're exposing yourself to a lot of risk. But if you're just buying and selling, buying and selling, buying and holding, and you're paying others to do that work for you, then you're mitigating your risk. Yes?
Just go back a ways. On your stock, you mentioned with your self-directed IRA, do you guys recommend brokerage firms?
Correct. We do have a brokerage firm in-house, Equity Trust Brokerage. That's the firm that I use. I will tell you that the analytics, the actual functional aspects of that platform are not as robust as like a TD Ameritrade or a Charles Schwab or an ING. So if you want that type of day trading aspect to your account, that technical trading, the graphs, et cetera, the analytics, then you'd want to coordinate with a third-party brokerage, and we could coordinate that for you, where you would actually have that third-party brokerage account, and then we would transfer funds into that account for you, and then you would trade. We would get quarterly updates, which we would create a consolidated account statement for you, so you'd see the fair market valuation of your self-directed retirement account.
My other question was on this Roth conversion. Is there any kind of formula used for age as far as what payroll reach a certain age and then it's a traditional, I guess what kind of returning we force tax and say that we want to add first. For just example, 70,000 income, you want to move 50,000, now I throw it into 220,000.
Yeah, to give you an example, let's say you had $100,000 in a traditional IRA. It's a tax-deferred IRA. You never paid taxes on it before. Let's say you take that $100,000 and you move it into a Roth IRA account. That $100,000 is going to be added to your ordinary income, and you're going to pay taxes accordingly. Because that $100,000 that is now in your Roth IRA account is going to grow 100% tax-free, and you're going to pay tax again. So it can increase your tax burden significantly because now you have $100,000 added to your AGI. What some investors will do is they will convert in stages. So they'll convert 50,000 in year one, 50,000 in year two, 50,000 in year three, or 20,000 in year one, 20,000 in year two, so on and so forth. So there's a number of ways in which you can mitigate that tax risk, but ultimately, you never paid taxes on the money before, so you've got to pay taxes now when you start to convert it over into the Roth IRA. And that's where I ran into trouble because I converted a bunch of money from a tax-deferred account into a Roth account, and then all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, I owe taxes, and it was not fun. But you know what? Although it wasn't fun, I realized that going forward, I don't have to pay taxes. So I'm like, well, I'd rather pay the taxes now than have to pay taxes later.
But you're a lot younger, so when you get a certain age.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right.
A couple things I noticed is when you roll money into a Roth IRA, this is just the money rolled away. If you push into a higher tax bracket, because the other money that you had made that year. Because one time I got an email from my account and it was being profit. Perfect story. And what happened because of the transaction I made is it bumped the income way too high.
Right.
And it wiped out a whole bunch of my tax benefits. The other one is if you have to go to college, you can also mess up your child's financial aid. Because what the IRS cares about is, all they care about is how much did you make last year. They don't care how much. So that's something you really care about.
Right. Your conversions will be added to Jones' point. Your conversions will be added to your AGI. You have to be cognizant of that. And the other thing too is that you need to calculate your effective tax rate. So everybody understands what their marginal tax rate is, right? It's pretty simple, right? You look at the tax bracket, you know what your marginal tax rate, but you need to calculate what your effective tax rate is. So you need to actually go through those calculations and determine, okay, what is my effective tax rate? And then also look at state tax rate, right? So what's Ohio? I think it's like 4.867, something like that, 4.867. So we need to look at the state tax rate, and then we need to factor that into how much we're going to be paying. So that's what I did when I did my Roth conversion. I looked at what my state tax rate is. I looked at what my effective tax rate is, not what my marginal tax rate is. I looked at what my state tax rate is plus my ordinary income tax rate is, and then I basically took my checkbook out and gave a lot of money to IRS. You know, so that's what you got to do. Yes.
Let's say we're buying houses to do a rehab stuff. We need new roof, electrical upgrades, anything that works this up. Is it a prohibited transaction for me to coordinate this?
No, it's not.
So
So
I
the
can go out and get the plumber, and I can go out and get the roofer, and I can go out and get the electrician, and do the contract, do the work, and everything else.
Right. So the rule of thumb, as far as prohibited transactions are concerned, is you can do the desk work. You can do the desk work. Yes. So gentleman's scenario was if my IRA owns a property and I want to coordinate the rehab of that property, what can I or can I not do? Yes, you can certainly coordinate the rehab of the property. So you can hire all of the general contractors, independent contractors, et cetera, et cetera. You can do all the desk work. You should not be doing the sweat equity. So that's where you can create a prohibited transaction. So if you're going in and you're actually doing the hands-on work yourself, where you're doing the gut job, you're actually ripping out the cabinetry, et cetera, that can be considered a prohibited transaction. But if you're just coordinating the actual, or liaisoning, if you will, the actual contracting work that's being done, that's not considered a prohibited transaction because all you're doing is inspecting and overseeing the IRA-owned asset, which you're maintaining the integrity of your retirement account investment, which is acceptable.
So if I technically personally don't own that property, IRA, who is writing the contracts with the contractor?
You are. Mm-hmm. And your it's actually your IRA. So, for example, for clients that are working with equity trust companies, when they're engaging in any type of contractual agreement or purchase or sale, it's going to be in the name of their IRA, which is equity trust company, custodian, FBO, for the benefit of their name, IRA, or account number, IRA. Some clients actually use their account number instead of their name for anonymity purposes. They don't want to have their name on public record, so they have their account number, IRA, which is acceptable as well. And if you're working with another self-directed IRA firm or custodian, I'm assuming that the same would go for those institutions. They would allow you to use an account number instead of your name for anonymity purposes. So now on public record, it only shows your account number. And just like any other financial institution, we have to adhere to the Bank Privacy Act. So if any institution or any individual contacts us, then we have to let them know that unfortunately. Yes?
I talked to someone that was really frustrated with the company that they were dealing with their IRA because they said to replace the water heater, they would have to have that send the invoice for the water heater to that old company and have to check back the client. And they found it so frustrating. They said, why don't you just have a property management management? And that property manager has an account for all maintenance issues. The property manager will take care of all that paperwork. And then properties get sent back to the holding company and manage at a property management level all the details. So there's a check to be caught for every single thing. I mean, if that's okay with equity trust too.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll deal with it either way. I mean, we can have somebody that is maintaining a property management account or an escrow account where they're actually taking those expenses and paying for them from that account, and then they're reimbursing them or reconciling them through an actual master account. or they might be actually paying for all those expenses individually from the self-directed retirement account, whereby they're actually using the electronic e-Advantage online banking account with Equity Trust Company. That is certainly acceptable. We don't necessarily have a preference per se. It certainly helps if the individual is using a property management company, because now that property management company is reconciling everything and they're actually keeping all the records and documentation of all those transactions. But again, we don't we don't have a preference.
Would it be possible to set up a land trust and make your equity trust account the beneficiary rather than deal with account numbers and
You could, yeah, we have clients that do that. So they'll set up a land trust in the name of their, might be the name of the property typically. So 123 Main Street property land trust. They have a trustee. The trustee cannot be you. That's the important thing to understand, is that if you were to be the trustee of your IRA-owned land trust, that could potentially be a prohibited transaction. So what we want to see is we want to see a real estate attorney or some other investor as the land trustee, and then your IRA is the beneficiary of such land trust, and then they have a bank account which you essentially have access to as well, where you can actually pay for all the fixed repairs. In fact, that's exactly the way that I do it. Investor friends that I work with, when we buy and sell real estate, they have a land trust. I'm the trustee of the land trust. I direct all the documents. This is on camera. I direct all the documents. I file everything, and I ultimately am the decision-making authority over the land trust as the trustee of such a land trust. Their IRAs are beneficiaries, and then we buy and sell real estate with that account. And my account is a standalone with their as the trustees of my trust. So. Yes.
How do you handle petty cash, this tiny little couple dollars worth of things you don't want to write a check for, you don't want to do a debit card or whatever the other things you're allowed to do? How do you just handle that?
Petty cash is it's difficult, because can we take cash? Yes, I will take cash. If you give me $500 right now, I will deposit it into my personal account. No, I will. I'll deposit it into our bank account. We have a local bank account. We can do that for you if needed, but we would prefer for you to send in a money order, and then we can deposit it in the account. We want to make sure that we keep very good records of every single transaction within your account. So we don't want to deal with petty cash. We want to deal with money orders. We want to deal with checks, so that we can show that deposit made in the account. If you receive a check or you receive cash, then you want to make sure you convert that to a money order and deposit that into your account.
If I gave us before, I need a brand new building that's in a self-directed IRA. Need to get a new set of keys for cost $3 at the hardware store. Don't want to submit or whatever.
Yeah.
Just want to pay cash. How do you deal with that? That's an expense that I personally pay to get keys.
You pay for it, don't expense it.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. There's actually a Department of Labor advisory ruling on that, Reinvestment or Reimbursement Act. I can't give you the actual specific code, but I can tell you that if you were to pay for an expense and you were to reimburse yourself personally, it doesn't constitute a per se prohibited transaction per the Department of Labor, because there is that advisory ruling associated with that type of transaction, because the IRS and the Department of Labor understands that there are certain circumstances that unfortunately warrant that type of transaction. So you could conceivably do that, and I've had clients that have done that before with Equity Trust Company. I wouldn't tell you, and I wouldn't tell everybody here to use that privilege. It's something that if you need to use that type of transaction, then by all means use it, but try to your best ability to have somebody else pay for that, and then have your IRA reimburse them. I had during Hurricane Sandy, there's a gentleman that basically there was a tree service company that came in and remove some trees and basically put a gun to the guy's head and said, hey, you're paying me or else, right? And the guy goes, okay, pulled out cash and get his money. And so we had no other choice as a financial institution but to reimburse using the self-directed retirement account for those purposes. So there is a Department of Labor advisory ruling on reimbursement of expenses on IRA-owned assets. So as long as the intent is sound, then it's acceptable. Yes. Can the IRA own or invest in a business? It's possible, but it depends on your involvement. So there's an interpretive bulletin that was released in about 2003 from the Department of Labor, which basically says if you have a business and you are the owner or operator of such business and you have discretionary authority over the decision making on that business and your IRA is going to invest in that business, then it could be considered a prohibited transaction. So yes, you can, but if you have personal involvement, the chances are that it's going to be considered a prohibited transaction.
Well, the number, I'm trying to think of the number, 49, that's 49%.
Talking about the 50% entity rule, so there's a rule, it's a 50% entity rule. So if I have let's say a property management company and I'm the 49% owner, I say, oh, well, great, I'm the 49% owner, I'm under 50%, pursuant to Internal Revenue Code 4975, E2 under disqualified persons, et cetera, I can use my property management company and I can buy and sell real estate, I can property manage, I can do whatever I want with this entity. It's not considered a disqualified person pursuant to Internal Revenue Code 4975, E2. Well, guess what? There's a case called Rollins versus the Commissioner, which would argue otherwise. So if you do engage in such transaction, the IRS is most likely going to argue that you are still personally benefiting from such transaction, transfer to or benefit of a disqualified person of the plan assets or income of the such assets, and that would be considered still a disqualified transaction or a prohibited transaction. So, yeah, to answer your question again, you can't do it. Because what a lot of people try to do, I had a guy that tried to do this in Cleveland. He's an investor friend of mine. He owns a lot of properties and rental properties. He goes, oh, perfect. He goes, so I'm gonna set up an LLC. I'm gonna put myself as 49% owner, and my investor friend is gonna be the 51% owner. And I'm gonna take my IRA. I'm gonna lend money to that LLC, and we're gonna go out and buy and sell real estate, and I'm gonna personally benefit. Is not 49% or somebody take 49% of all the income. And then my investor friend, he's going to set up another company, separate LLC. They're all doing it through legal suit, right? So it's like great. So so he sets up another LLC. He puts himself as 51% owner. The other guy puts himself as 49% owner, and they loan money. He loans money from his IRA. The fact of the matter is when you look at the circumstances, the facts and circumstances, ultimately, the IRS, if they were to audit you, they're going to look at that transaction, they're going to say, you are in violation of the indirect benefit rule, the exclusive benefit rule. The exclusive benefit rule is an extremely difficult rule to unfortunately overcome as a petitioner in a tax court case. Not to get too tax court case nerdy on you guys, but the fact of the matter is when you're trying to unfortunately circumvent the law in that capacity, you're going to violate a prohibited transaction. It's going to happen inevitably. And we've seen it happen multiple times in the past. And Rollins versus the Commissioner is probably the most profound precedents in any case that we can cite in that capacity. Yes?
Who's your most affected people? What are they doing with their self-directed wealth IRAs?
I would say wholesalers. I have a client, her name's Jan, she's in St. Louis. She's bought last May, she bought a property in St. Louis. She put $1,000 down on the deal and subsequently wholesaled the property, signed the contract to a tenant buyer, and made $37,000, 100% tax-free in a Roth IRA account. $1,000 investment, less than 30 days, under contract, $37,000, 100% tax-free. Another gentleman used his daughter's CISA account, covered education savings account, $100 as consideration, signed the option contract. He had an option to buy, not the obligation to exercise the option, right? But the right to obligation, or the right to exercise the option, and made $4,098.20 in the deal. All 100% tax-free in the covered education savings account. So I actually have somewhere around 60 to 70 different case studies that I have in my presentation that I give on Saturdays. So I can certainly share those numbers with you guys and provide some of that information. Yes, ma'am.
Two questions. Are stepchildren considered disqualified?
Stepchildren. Oh, that's tough. It's difficult. It's actually the way the law reads, Internal Revenue Code 4975 E2, disqualified persons. It is lineal descendants, spouses of lineal descendants. So stepchildren would be considered disqualified persons. What's interesting is in-laws are not considered disqualified persons. So technically, I could lend money to my mother-in-law. But my mother-in-law, I couldn't lend money to me.
Okay, another question. Say,
I don't understand. I wish I understood the law. And when Congress battled over this back in basically when I was born, they considered brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews, and ultimately they made the decision that those were not considered disqualified persons. It's strange.
say you're in a situation you find a property good deal, you ask for 10% down right then and there. But I want to do it for myself directed IRA, but of course that takes time, and the closing is 30 days later or whatever. Is there any way to put the 10% down on this property but still have it in the self-directed Roth at some point closing time?
Yeah, so as far as like consideration money is concerned and earned money, it must be paid from either your IRA or a non-disqualified party. If your IRA can't come up with the money at the time because your IRA either isn't funded or you can't get the money quick enough from the IRA to make that purchase. So the one thing that you cannot do, because there's a Internal Revenue Code ruling under consideration of disqualified persons. So they basically say that if you were to personally pay for that earnest money deposit or put money down, it could be considered a prohibited transaction. From my standpoint, I'm like, do it all day long. It doesn't matter to me because I understand your intent. But unfortunately, we know that the IRS and the commissioner could argue otherwise. So what we tell you is that you cannot do that. So what you need to do is have a non-disqualified party do that for you. Might be an investor friend, might be another REIA group member, could be a friend, or even a family member, a brother, sister, cousin, uncle, niece, nephew, somebody that's a non-disqualified person. Because those are not considered disqualified persons. And therefore, they can pay for that earnest money deposit, and then your IRA can reimburse them. So for example, Equity Trust Company, if you had your brother pay for the $1,000 earnest money deposit, then we could send a check for $1,000 to that individual to pay for that expense.
So if you do that at the time, of closing, so we put this earnest money down, how soon does he get reimbursed?
reimbursed within 3 business days, you do it. Yeah. Yes, sir.
If you save some money, I believe, out of your IRA, and you have a deposit broker, who you is buying, each transaction.
Yes, correct. And that's another question we have. Do we have any real estate agents here? Brokers, agents? Okay, so a lot of times people have questions about, can I take a commission for the IRA sale or purchase? You could, technically, but it could also be considered a prohibited transaction because there's consideration, therefore it would constitute a prohibited transaction. So it's in your best interest to not receive a commission. Furthermore, you're paying taxes, double taxes, payroll taxes, because you paid taxes to get the money in, right? And then you're paying yourself income, right? Depending on the income, what you're paying payroll taxes, so you're paying 6.2% Social Security tax and 1.45% Medicare tax. So you're double taxing yourself on a payroll perspective and ordinary income tax perspective. So it's not always in the best interest of an individual to accept such a commission. The law is interesting when we read it, and again, I don't want to belabor you into the actual tax code itself, but you could potentially actually receive a commission or compensation for managing more self-directed retirement account. But one cannot actually legitimately conclude that, yes, you can in fact take such commission, because the way the law is written, it's interesting, and it's not written in the sense that, yes, you can take a commission. The spirit of the law is that you can take a commission as a disqualified person, but it's more created so that a disqualified person other than yourself can take a commission, not you personally. So, can you take a commission? Yes. I've never seen anybody that has actually taken a commission on an IRA on that side.
So would you explain that to slide?
Yes. So this is a Roth conversion. And so what this means is when we have a traditional IRA, tax-deferred IRA, 401k, 457, thrift savings plan, we haven't paid taxes on the money going in. So we can convert it over into a Roth IRA account, pay the taxes now, so that we don't have to pay the taxes going forward. So in the example here, we have $100,000. We take $100,000 and we move it over to a Roth IRA account. $100,000 is added to our ordinary income. We pay the taxes based on our ordinary income tax rate. Let's say it's 20%, which is I would say, reasonable tax rate based on this example, which is 20%. 20% of 80,000 or 100,000 is $20,000, so $20,000 is paid in taxes. So that's our tax bill. We paid $20,000 to get $100,000 into a Roth IRA account. Now we have that $100,000 in a Roth IRA account. We can grow it. We can buy and sell real estate, tax liens, metals, various other alternative assets. We don't pay taxes going forward. And then when we eventually take money out of the account, we don't pay taxes on any of the distributions. So that's the spirit of the Roth IRA account, is that we don't have to pay any taxes on any of the distributions. Furthermore, if we have a Roth IRA account, we can take money out for our children's college educational expenses, 100% tax free, even while we're under the age of 59 and a half. So for example, why do I have a Roth 401k? Well, I have a Roth 401k because I understand that I can grow wealth 100% tax free. I don't have to pay taxes again. But also, when I have children, I don't have children now, but when I eventually have children, I want to be able to take money out of my Roth 401k for my alternative investments, and I want to be able to pay for my children's college education, because I had to pay for my education, and it is super, super expensive, right? Who's paid for college education here? Most of us, yeah. Very, very expensive. So I want to be able to take money out of that account, not have to pay taxes, and pay for my children's education, and that's what I can do. I can also, if I choose to, I can set up self-directed Roth IRA accounts for my children, and they can grow that Roth IRA account and pay for their own college education. Or I could also set up Roth IRA accounts for my parents or grandparents. So for example, let's say I set up a Roth IRA account for my old man, and I put $5,000 into the account, and we start growing the account, buying and selling, wholesaling property. Most likely I'd be a wholesaling property, so I do a couple deals in the account. Let's say I make $50,000. Now I got $60,000 in a Roth IRA account. I can have him take a distribution, $14,000 per year, 100% tax-and free, and then gift me $14,000. So I've literally created an account that produces $14,000 in 100% tax-free income per year. Now, when he passes away, even though I'm under the age of 59 and a half, I can still continue to grow that account, 100% tax and free, take distributions, 100% tax and free, and use the money 100% tax and free. So I've created a generational, or what I would call legacy Roth IRA account, to be able to buy and sell real estate and other alternative assets and not have to pay taxes.
You said your father in the account, you set up for him.
Right.
You're going to give him $14,000?
No, he's going to take out $14,000 per year and give it to me because I'm an awesome son.
Well, you have to get out of that account that you set up.
Yeah.
It's a Roth account, and he can give it to you.
Right. Gift tax. $14,000 gift tax. Yep.
Oh, that's what we want.
So you're able to continue that after he passes away because there's a track record of that, or if he did not in the past, when he passes away, would you be able to then instigate that?
Well, I'm able to do it because under the inheritance rule, I can take distributions from an inherited Roth IRA account 100% tax and penalty free without any of the rules associated with an individual retiree taking distributions from such account. So
he wouldn't have to do that while he's alive in order for you to be able to do that after he passes.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Can you set up the account for your parents or grandparents without them having earned income?
No, unless they had a pre-existing traditional IRA where you can convert into a Roth IRA or a pre-existing Roth IRA. Otherwise, you have to show earned income for that individual. For kids, it's pretty simple. You might have them as models, or you might actually have them performing some sort of services for your real estate enterprise. So a lot of our clients are having their children, hand write envelopes and stamp envelopes and things like that for the direct mail campaign. Some are even having their children do presentations for them to sellers. I have a client by the name of Jan, who I mentioned before, who wholesaled a property at $37,000. Her daughter, Brittany, is 17. She has over $30,000 in a Roth IRA account. Her daughter actually goes out and sells properties now for her mother and father. So they're able to pay her income, and then she puts it into Roth, and they buy and sell real estate with that account, partner up with their various other retirement accounts. So there are a variety of ways you can do that. For parents, it's a little bit more difficult. If you can show some sort of earned income for them, some sort of services rendered, then you can set up a Roth IRA account for them.
Just to add that, a good example why you see people using their kids on the commercial for like car companies and stuff like that,
Right, yeah.
But going back to this question here, when I do a conversion, I still do my $6,500 additional contribution.
Right, yes. Yeah, you can still, in addition to the conversion, you can still make a contribution. And that's important too, because if you make too much money, just put money into a traditional and then convert over to a Roth IRA account. So if you're somebody that's like, okay, I want to get as much money into that account as possible without paying taxes, then put it into the account first and then convert it over to the Roth IRA account. That way you don't have to worry about those MAGI limits or those conversion limits that we talked about.
What about the 80,000 savings?
Well, what that is the reason why I have that up there is if I'm paying taxes on the conversion, I don't want to take the money from my personal IRA. I want to take that money from my checking or savings account. And the reason why I want to do that is because if I take money out of my checking, my IRA, then I'm going to pay a 10% penalty under early withdrawal and ordinary income taxes because I'm under 15.5, right? So I would rather pay it from my checking or savings account than from my IRA account. Right.
If you're over 70.5, we could still do all this conversion stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, there's when you're 70.5, that most people they want to convert when they're 70.5, at least a portion of their account or all of their accounts, so they can avoid that 70.5 requirement of distribution. Because after 70.5, if you convert everything to a Roth IRA, you're not required to take minimum distributions. Now, eventually, when you pass away and leave it to your children will be required to take required minimum distributions because the individual who left them the account was 70.5, but the individual account holders themselves will not be required to take minimum distributions.
The money I gotta take as a distribution each year, I'm over 70.5, I can use that to put it into a Roth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, correct.
Would that be an advantage for parents? So if you get up there in age and work at a Roth, it's better for the parents that's all tax free for them.
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's and that's where we get into legacy IRA investing, and that's where when I work with some of our clients who are dealing in real estate, they're wholesaling, they're lease optioning, they're doing a lot of different types of transactions. We start to get into where they do generational LLC IRAs. So we have clients who have multiple IRAs for their children, grandchildren, and also other individuals within their family member base, and they're taking those retirement accounts and they're buying and selling real estate so that eventually those accounts are going to be left to their children and grandchildren, and they're not going to have to pay taxes on those accounts for their in-laws and other elderly individuals that could establish self-directed retirement accounts, and they can buy and sell real estate and then eventually leave them to the children and grandchildren. So now they have this tax-free funding vehicle. So for example, the reason why I have a Roth IRA account for my old man, and thank God she's not here because she'd be, really upset with me as I'm saying this, is because eventually when he passes away, I have this Roth IRA account that's 100% tax-free. I can buy and sell real estate with this account, and I can take money out today and not pay a single dime in taxes. Not a single dime in taxes. It's a 100% tax-free IRA, Roth IRA account investment vehicle. And that's how people are using these self-directed retirement accounts and using those levers in order to be able to buy and sell and not pay taxes on any of their income. So,
if anybody has any other questions, John has said that he will stay afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm here for a while, and I have I passed out some sheets of paper. If you are interested, I have 8 modules of educational material. If you're interested, we'll email those to you, and you can research those on your at your leisure. I actually do a Saturday educational course that qualifies for CPE credits, and we talk about every aspect of self-directed IRA investing. I know I only got to really, really just talk briefly about what it is that we do. But if you're interested in more information, please feel free to contact me or fill out that information and we can send that to you.
The self-directed IRA or Roth IRA concept really can benefit real estate investors. So think of your questions, get them over to John. He'll be glad to answer them for you.
Yeah, I can talk. Oh yeah, absolutely. I have business cards. I'll hand them out. I can talk for like hours. If you couldn't tell already, like hours upon hours.
John, we want to thank you very much. Here's a token of our
You have to. Thank you so much.
So this will be wrapping it up for tonight. You said, John has said he will stay for questions if you want. with your specific cases or give them a call later on.
Oh, yeah, just fill out the information and we'll email the content to you. Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And don't forget, I've still got picnic tickets.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, free.
And
Yeah.
don't forget, we've got Pete Young's coming in at our next meeting. So, good night, everybody. Drive safely, please.